There was a time in European history when a person could walk into an apothecary, ask for medicine, and be handed part of a human body, not as a secret, not as some underground ritual, not in a candlelit basement where everyone wore robes and pretended that made the situation less insane, as medicine, powdered skull, human fat, blood, bone, moss scraped from a dead person's head, even ground up mummy. For centuries, European doctors, healers, kings, nobles, and ordinary patients believed that human remains could cure disease, stop bleeding, ease pain, treat seizures, preserve youth, and restore vitality. They did not call it cannibalism. They called it treatment. And that is what makes this story so disturbing. Because when we imagine cannibalism in history, Europe often points the finger outward, at distant tribes, foreign enemies, people described as savage by the same empires that were busy doing their own horrors with paperwork and wigs. But in early modern Europe, human flesh and bone were not only feared, they were prescribed. This is the history of corpse medicine. And I promise you, the darkest part is not that people believed human bodies had power. The darkest part is how civilized it looked while they consumed them. To understand corpse medicine, you have to step into a world where the body was not understood the way we understand it now. Medicine was a strange mix of observation, religion, ancient theory, astrology, folk belief, humors, alchemy, and whatever someone with confidence and a robe could say loudly enough. Doctors believed the body was governed by balances: hot and cold, wet and dry, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Illness meant imbalance. Treatment meant restoring order. Sometimes that meant herbs. Sometimes minerals. Sometimes bleeding a patient because apparently the medical profession spent centuries looking at sick people and saying, what if we made them leak? But corpse medicine came from another idea. The belief that the human body carried special force, life force, vital energy, a kind of human power that might transfer from the dead to the living. This was not fringe thinking in the way we might imagine. It appeared in medical books. It appeared in apothecaries. It was discussed by physicians. It was used by people with money, titles, and education. The dead were not just buried. Sometimes they were processed. One of the most famous corpse medicines was called mumia. Originally, the word was linked to substances associated with embalmed bodies, especially Egyptian mummies. Over time, European demand grew for mummy as medicine. Ground mummy was sold as a remedy, a powder made from ancient bodies, shipped across borders, stored in shops, and consumed by patients who believed it could heal them. Think about the absurdity of that. A person in Europe could be told that the cure for their illness was a dead Egyptian from thousands of years ago, crushed into powder and sold like a spice. History is not a straight line of progress. Sometimes it is a haunted pharmacy with excellent branding. Mumia was used for all kinds of ailments. People believed it could treat internal bleeding, bruising, wounds, stomach problems, and weakness. The logic was part medical, part magical. A preserved body seemed powerful because it had resisted decay. If a corpse could remain intact for centuries, maybe some of that preserving power could be transferred to the living. That was the thinking. Not scientific in the modern sense, but to the people of the time it had a kind of terrible logic. A preserved body meant preserved vitality. Consume the preserved body, and perhaps your own body would be preserved too. The problem, of course, was supply. Real ancient mummies were limited. Demand was not. So the market did what markets often do when morality gets in the way of profit. It got creative. Fake mummy medicine appeared. Some sellers used more recent corpses. Others used bodies treated to look old. Some products may not have contained genuine mummy at all. which means people were not only consuming human remains, they were sometimes being scammed on the quality of the human remains. There is no elegant way to say that. The corpse medicine industry had counterfeit corpse. That is where we are. But mummy powder was only part of the story. Human skull was another prized ingredient. Powdered skull was believed to help with the conditions like epilepsy, bleeding, and disorders of the head. The skull was treated as especially powerful because it had contained the brain, the seat of thought, spirit, and identity. In the logic of sympathetic medicine, like could treat like. A medicine from the head might treat diseases of the head. Bone from a human might strengthen or influence a human. It sounds bizarre now, but sympathetic medicine shaped a lot of early healing practices. People believed nature carried signatures, hidden connections, and symbolic relationships. The world was full of clues. The job of the healer was to read them. So a skull was not just bone. It was a symbol, a container of personhood, a hard white relic of the human mind. And if you ground it fine enough, apparently it became a prescription. There were even famous medicines made from human skull. Some royal and elite remedies included distilled preparations connected to skull or bone. One of the most unsettling parts of this history is that corpse medicine was not only for the poor or desperate. Kings used it, nobles used it, educated people used it. People who would have considered themselves refined and Christian and civilized still accepted the idea that the dead could be ingredients. That contradiction is the heartbeat of this episode. Europe condemned cannibalism in others while quietly turning human remains into medicine at home. The difference was packaging. A ritual meal was barbaric. A powder from an apothecary was healthcare. Same species, different label. And history loves a label. Another substance used in corpse medicine was human fat. Human fat was rendered and sold as a salve. It was rubbed on wounds, sore joints, and aching muscles. Executioners, who already occupied a strange and feared place in society, sometimes became suppliers. That makes a grim kind of economic sense. Execution sites produce bodies. Bodies produce materials. Materials produce remedies. The machinery of punishment fed the machinery of medicine. A condemned person could die in public, and parts of their body could continue into the marketplace, not as a memory, as inventory. That is one of the most disturbing parts of corpse medicine. It blurred the line between justice, commerce, and the body. The criminal body was treated differently. A person executed by the state was often seen as marked, cursed, powerful, or useful. Their death was public. Their body could become a warning, a lesson, a spectacle, and sometimes medicine. There are accounts of people seeking fresh blood from execution sites, especially as a treatment for epilepsy. The belief was that blood carried vitality and fresh blood carried it most strongly. Some believed the sudden violent death of an executed person released a powerful force that could help the sick. Again, the logic is horrific, but it was logic. Fresh life force from the dead. A cure drawn from punishment. A crowd gathered not only to watch death, but to collect from it. That is the kind of detail that makes history feel less like a textbook and more like a basement with a locked door. Because execution was already theater. The state killed in public to teach obedience. Corpse medicine turned that public death into a pharmacy counter. Then there was the moss of the skull. This was exactly as cursed as it sounds. A type of moss or lichen believed to grow on human skulls, especially skulls exposed to air, was used in remedies. It was thought to stop bleeding and treat various conditions. The idea was wrapped again in sympathetic thinking. Something growing from a human skull carried human power. Something connected to death might control the body's dangerous openings. Something that clung to bone might help hold the living body together. There's a terrible poetry to it. Not good poetry. The kind of poetry you find scribbled inside an abandoned medical cabinet. But still, the belief made sense to people who lived in a world where science, faith, magic, and medicine had not yet fully separated. That is important. It is easy to laugh at corpse medicine. Honestly, part of it deserves laughter, because humans really did look at powdered skull and say, finally, healthcare innovation. But if we only laugh, we miss the deeper horror. These people were afraid. They were sick. They were grieving. They lived in a world where disease could take a child in a day. Infection could follow a scratch. Childbirth could kill. Seizures could look like possession, and plague could empty streets. When medicine had few reliable answers, desperation filled the gaps. And desperation has always been one of the most profitable substances on earth. People bought corpse medicine because they wanted to live. Doctors prescribed it because they believed, or because others believed, or because the medical marketplace rewarded certainty. Apothecaries sold it because there was demand. Collectors supplied it because bodies could be turned into money. Everyone had a reason. That is how disturbing practices survive. Not because everyone involved is a cartoon villain, because each person has one small justification. The patient wants relief. The doctor wants a cure. The seller wants profit. The state has bodies. The culture has beliefs. Add those together, and suddenly the dead are being ground into medicine jars. No one has to cackle. The system does the work quietly. By the 1600s and 1700s, corpse medicine was woven into parts of European medical culture, but it did not last forever. Medical thinking began to change. Anatomy improved. Chemistry improved. Scientific skepticism grew. Doctors argued more about evidence and less about symbolic power. Not quickly, not cleanly. History does not update like software. It drags its old beliefs behind it until they finally fall off in public and make everyone uncomfortable. But gradually, corpse medicine lost credibility. Mummy powder began to look less like medicine and more like superstition. Human fat and skull remedies became harder to defend. The old world of sympathetic cures gave way to newer forms of medicine, still imperfect, still sometimes brutal, but increasingly less interested in turning corpses into prescriptions. Still, the practice did not vanish all at once. Old remedies lingered. Folk beliefs lingered. Markets lingered. And the appetite for miracle cures never really disappeared. That may be the real reason corpse medicine still feels relevant. Because yes, most people today are not walking into a pharmacy asking for powdered skull. Thankfully. That would make the line at Walgreens much more complicated. But the basic pattern is still familiar. A frightening illness. A desperate patient. A confident seller. A product with a strange origin. A promise that nature, ancient wisdom, secret knowledge, or forbidden ingredients can do what ordinary medicine cannot. The packaging changes. The hunger stays. Corpse medicine belongs to the past, but the human weakness it exploited is very much alive. We still want cures to be hidden. We still want ancient things to be powerful. We still want suffering to have a shortcut. And when people are scared enough, they will swallow almost anything if someone tells them it might save them. That is not stupidity. That is fear. And fear is where the marketplace sharpens its knives. The history of corpse medicine also forces us to ask what counts as civilized, because Europe often built its identity by defining other people as savage. Cannibals were always somewhere else. Barbarism was always across the sea beyond the border, outside the empire. But in the shops of Europe, human remains were being measured, sold, and consumed under the authority of medicine. That does not make every European patient a monster. It makes the category of monster less convenient. The line between civilization and horror was never as clean as people wanted it to be. Sometimes horror wore a white collar. Sometimes it had a Latin name. Sometimes it came in a jar. The dead in this story were not always honored. Sometimes they were harvested. Ancient mummies were taken from tombs and reduced to powder. Executed bodies were treated as resources. Skulls became ingredients. Fat became ointment. Blood became cure. A human being became a substance. That transformation is the core of the horror. Not just that people consumed the dead, but that systems found ways to make it normal. Once something enters a shop, a prescription, a royal court, or a medical text, it becomes easier to accept. The jar does not scream. The label does not remember. The powder does not tell you who it used to be. And that silence is useful. It lets the living consume the dead without thinking too hard about the person who came before the ingredient. That is what corpse medicine did. It turned bodies into things. And once a body becomes a thing, it can be bought, sold, transported, prescribed, swallowed, rubbed into skin and forgotten, until history opens the cabinet and finds the jar still there. If you made it to the end of this one, genuinely respect. This story is grotesque, but it is also deeply human in the worst possible way. Corpse medicine was not just about ignorance. It was about fear, hope, commerce, authority, and the terrifying ability of respectable societies to make the unthinkable ordinary. This channel is about the corners of history where the horror was not supernatural. It was human. And the truth here is simple. For centuries, Europe did not just bury the dead. It prescribed them. Next time, we're going from corpse medicine to Edinburgh, where two men discovered that the fastest way to make money from medical schools was not to dig up bodies. It was to create them. If you want the real story, subscribe. And if this episode changed how you think about medicine, cannibalism, or the strange things people will believe when they are desperate to survive, drop a comment and tell me what part hit hardest. I read every single one. I'll see you in the dark.